A few months ago, when browsing through the depths of SteamDB looking for 2D games made with Unreal Engine, I found a demo for this little game called Loot Loop. It's a simple incremental game where you lead a party of adventurers through various dungeons and upgrade their abilities using gold, which then allows you to earn more gold faster, leading to a very addictive gameplay loop. Since it's a flat 2D pixel art game, just by looking at it, you would never be able to tell that it was created with Unreal Engine 5. But it is in fact using Unreal Engine 5.5. It makes use of sprites and flipbooks from Paper 2D and even the free Paper ZD plugin for handling animation states for the characters. When I first came across Loot Loop, it only had around 2,000 wishlists and I didn't play the demo but simply put it on my watch list to keep an eye on it. So it took me by surprise when the game blew up like it did with the release of the full version. As of recording this video, it sits at an estimated 75,000 copies sold and a gross revenue of around $320,000, which is very impressive on its own. But what makes it even more impressive is the fact that this was made by a solo developer over the course of roughly 10 months, including the prototyping phase. Since I want to keep tabs on all games using Paper 2D and Paper ZD, I just had to know how Loot Loop was created and why it sold so well. And when I reached out to the developer, Patrick was kind enough to answer all of my questions. While Loot Loop was his first solo endeavor, it turns out that he already had around 5 years of experience working as a game designer on multiple AA projects, including VR and mobile games. Most of the time he was strictly doing game design outside of the engine, but for some titles he also did a bit of gameplay implementation using blueprints. And when he unfortunately got laid off last year and had the chance to start working on his game, he had to decide which engine to go with. While he was considering Godot engine, since it's lightweight and more geared towards 2D games, him already knowing blueprints and not being too comfortable with writing code made him choose Unreal Engine 5 for this project. And in fact, the entire game was created only using blueprints with no C++ at all. So it's fair to say that this game would not exist without blueprint visual scripting. Hey Epic, you might want to take some notes here. Even though Patrick was able to get going with the gameplay programming parts and game design rather quickly, one thing he still had to figure out was how to handle 2D animations in Unreal, and that's when he stumbled upon my ultimate 2D Unreal Engine top-down course, which nudged him in the right direction. In early prototypes of the game, you can still see him using the assets from one of the sections in the course, which he later replaced with what you can now see in the released game. And I guess this is the perfect time to tell you that you can now get my top-down course at 92% off from the discount link in the description. It's gonna teach you how to create 3 different 2D and 2.5D top-down games in Unreal, and you can also check out my most recent course, which is the JRPG Masterclass that is about 37 hours of video footage and will teach you how to make a gorgeous 2.5D JRPG with turn-based combat in Unreal Engine 5. Following the advice from my course, Patrick ended up using a mix between base Paper 2D flipbooks for simple elements like the special ability icons above the characters' heads, and Paper ZD for elements requiring more complex animation states such as the characters. Since in later stages there are many different enemies, effects and coins on the screen at once, I was curious if the developer used actor pooling or other optimization methods to maintain a smooth frame rate. But it turns out that the only place where he had to use pooling were the text elements for damage numbers, and everything else is pretty much just spawn and destroy. So while there certainly are ways to optimize the game by using actor pooling or switching to a more lightweight game engine, Loot Loop runs perfectly fine even on weaker hardware such as the Steam Deck, and now that we know how Loot Loop came to be, let's take a look at why it managed to become such a great success. Again, it's currently sitting at an estimated 75,000 units sold, and a gross revenue of about $320,000. While we still have to deduct the 30% Steam cut and consider taxes, this is a pretty good amount of money, especially considering that Patrick self-published this title, and Loot Loop is gonna continue to sell even more units in the long tail over the next 5 years or so. When I asked Patrick about why he thought the game took off like this, he said that incremental games just tend to sell well right now, and the core of the game being simple allowed him to really polish it up and focus on making progression feel good. While he did a decent job posting about the game on Reddit and he managed to get a few thousand views on his posts here and there, none of them went viral and he actually struggled quite a bit getting wishlists in the beginning. About 4 months before launch, he put out a demo which he updated based on player feedback, but his participation in Steam Next Fest only led to about 1,000 additional wishlists, bringing him to a total of around 3,000 after the event. Next, he started sending out keys to content creators, and while at first only a few small YouTubers covered it, what had the biggest impact was a video by Idle Cup, reaching about 140,000 views and leading to roughly 2,000 to 3,000 wishlists. This brought Loot Loop up to a total of roughly 7,000 wishlists and allowed it to get into the popular and upcoming section on Steam. The visibility from this brought in another 5,000 followers, leading to a total of 12,000 wishlists up until launch. And after he hit the release button, it was pretty much just the Steam algorithm doing its thing and showing the game to more people through the new and trending tab and the discovery queue. This led to a German YouTuber called Hand of Blood covering the game in a video that got 240,000 views, which brought a huge bump in sales and explains why Loot Loop sold about 40% of its copies in Germany. So to sum it up, incremental games being popular and rather easy to create, content creators actually being interested in the game, and the Steam algorithm doing its thing when you show up with a polished product and enough wishlists are what made Loot Loop succeed. Patrick said that he's excited to keep on working as an indie dev full time, and he has many ideas to possibly add things to Loot Loop or work on new titles. Again, if you also want to learn how to make awesome games, check out my courses from the link in the description for a huge discount. As always, a huge thanks to my awesome patrons and YouTube channel members.